here this was the question that we wanted to deal with. So why do you need to know about multiple different laws when you are dealing with commercial litigation? As you can see, like, the questions that arise are not under very specific acts. Like, obviously there will be something that is in an act which gets challenged, but then also your knowledge of treaties is called into question, your knowledge of taxation is called into question, your knowledge of employment contracts will be called into question, your knowledge of arbitration and international laws can be called into question. It's so many different things that you will need to know if you are dealing in cases which are like commercial litigation. Okay, so it will not be one thing that is relevant. And interestingly, like, I remember one video by Amish Agarwal. I would like to quote that. In fact, this is just something that immediately struck me, and I would like to share with you. He was talking about a case where it was actually a criminal case that he was fighting, and then there suddenly he thought of Information Technology Act provision that he had read, where you are using that as an evidence, or when you're talking of that. So now there can be laws which are so interconnected with each other. Okay, you're not going to be dealing with one specific law or litigation in particular when you are talking of commercial litigation. In one law there can be multiple questions which are called required for that specific case. In one case there can be more than one legislations which get questioned. Okay, so you would have to have this kind of a comprehensive view when you are dealing with commercial litigation. You can't focus and say that, okay, I know the civil procedure code and that is sufficient for me. You would also need to know where something can be challenged under the Companies Act. You will also need to know where something can be challenged under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Like, all connected legislations you will have to have an idea about. You cannot function in this sphere. Like, if you are specifically a criminal lawyer, maybe you will be able to, like, function with specific criminal laws. Okay, even there, additional knowledge always helps, but you may be able to work the way through. If you are specifically dealing only with certain kind of cases, family law related cases or something, you may be able to deal with, like, personal laws of different religions that are called into question. You will be able to deal with that, or succession acts, things like that. Okay, but when you're dealing with commercial litigation, chances are you can have multiple different things which are called into question in that one specific litigation. Okay, so that is why you must know a whole gamut that is applicable to a specific transaction, and you will not be able to act in silo, that this is the thing that I need to. Even in a contract, for example, and like I said, maximum commercial litigation deals in a business versus business sphere. Okay, so which will flow from contracts. And for contracts, if you're looking at enforcement of contracts, it's not just your contract act that you need to know about, right? Like, you will have to be aware of what is the law that is applicable to the specific parties to that contract. Okay, what are the other laws that are impacting that specific transaction? What are the laws that are impacting the dispute resolution in that contract? Okay, all of these things you will have to be aware of in order to be able to bring, like, all these things into picture when you are dealing with a commercial litigation, right? So there is always multiple different things that you will have to be aware of when you handle such kinds of matters. And because of that, the way you work, or the way you progress, or the way you think is, you look at a specific transaction, and you look at, what can be different litigation, or what can be different laws which are called into question with respect to that specific transaction. Okay, so for example, if you are dealing with a share purchase agreement, I'm just giving you an example here. Share purchase agreement. Okay, now this can call into question your Companies Act. It can call into question securities laws. It can call into question previous judgments of NCLT, NCLAT. It can even have treaties involved with it. You can have it can even have FDI related laws, like how we are seeing the future retail judgment, even FEMA related or foreign exchange management related laws which will be called into question. Many multiple different things which are called into or which are involved with one specific transaction that is happening, right? So you have to be aware of the interplay. So when you are doing at that, you look at it not from a legal perspective. You don't look at it what law gets applied to it. You look at it that what is the transaction that is happening here, and then how many litigation or what are the different things that will impact this transaction. Okay, that is how you have to focus. Your focus will be a lot transaction based rather than on a specific law or being knowing, let's say, IPC and CRPC or things like that. Okay, so and the more you read the judgments, the more you come into contact with lots of different kinds of litigation that can take place, the more it will strike you that or come into picture in this particular transaction, right? So that is your approach will basically be transaction driven rather than litigation driven, or rather than law driven. Okay? You will not think of what law gets applied. You will think of what is happening in this transaction. Okay, and because of what is happening, how many different things can be called into question.